I quickly move. That is why I can't afford my laptop to become wet. But the reason that I'm sitting here, for those that have just joined, let me stop sharing the screen so you can see where I am. Oh, why can't you see me?
All right, hang on, minimize.
Thanks, guys.
We can see you. We can see you, Tanishka.
Really? Because all I can see is an avatar and the screen is black.
How about that?
Yeah, no, that's fine. We can see you.
Okay, so if I hold up my screen, you're going to be able to see Uluru in the distance. Look.
Oh, beautiful.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah, mama. And when I came here in 2012 for the first time, she said to me, tell all my children to come. She's literally this just meditating energy, just divine. It's so... I always was scared of coming to the desert as a water sign. I thought I'd be a duck out of water. But the energy here is so soft for those that haven't been to Uluru, which is the global solar plexus center. And it's literally a piece of the earth crust, and it like an iceberg. It's way more under the ground than what you can see. But it's just energetically, it's spectacular. The first time I came in 2012, as the bus approached, I went into a multi-orgasmic state, and I could feel the twin serpents of light writhing inside of me, which was an interesting thing on a bus. And then when we actually got to Uluru, I just burst into tears. My heart just exploded. So I'm glad to say I haven't had anything as intense this time, but we had a double rainbow that time. So welcome to everybody, especially those of you for whom it is a silly hour. And particularly if you're in the deepest, darkest, shortest day of the winter solstice. So thank you so much. And we're going to get started. So let me just share my screen. Portion of the screen, share, fabulous. Okay, so today is the day that we've waited for, well, let's just say, definitely in 2020. It's been such an interesting year. But really for millennia. So we've had, good morning neighbour, just doing an event. Sorry, no, I hope the noise isn't intrusive. Just on my balcony. So this great conjunction is when Saturn and Jupiter, which are the two largest planets in our solar system, visible with the naked eye, appear to be on top of each other. And this can make it appear as if they're the one star. So just like, you know, the Star of Bethlehem was the portent or the herald for a whole new era of consciousness, that is, you know, what is significant at this time. Now, great conjunctions, which is the orbits appearing to collide from our vantage point on Earth of Saturn and Jupiter, do occur every 20 years, or 18 to 20 years. And they signify a time of great change. So Jupiter has a 12-year orbit. So we get, Jupiter stays in one of the signs for the whole year. And that's how the Chinese zodiac, the different animals, is based on the transits of Jupiter. So this year, how interesting, I've already jumped. In 2020, Jupiter was in Capricorn for the whole year. And so that kind of set the tone for the year. And, you know, Capricorn was very much about top-down hierarchical power, rules and regulations, tradition, what father says, or, you know, government as the collective father goes. And, you know, and that's not to say that the energy of father is necessarily dark and bad and evil. It's just that because the father was not balanced by the mother energy for the last millennia, it was out of balance. So we ended up with Darth Vader, the Dark Father, instead of the Green Man, Ceremonial, the heart-centered father, which is the new archetype, which is the old archetype, which is re-emerging, which is wonderful. And we see so many more dads, you know, in heart connection with their children and with the mother, with the land as a result. So Saturn has a 30-year orbit around the sun. So you can see together, that's why they kind of collide. Not that they actually collide, but appear to be so close to each other. And this is the closest one since, well, the last 400 years. But it's the last one which has been visible since 1623, okay, in 800 years. And today is also a solstice. So this amplifies the potency of today as a vortex of accelerated consciousness transformation for the collective. Because the solstice today is when the sun is at its most southern point, which is why the further north you go, the earlier the sunset is going to be, the shorter the day, and the later the sunrise. And that is what initiates us through a death and rebirth psychologically and emotionally. Our own shadow really looms largest on the shortest day. For those of us in the southern hemisphere, and I'm in Australia, this is the longest day. This is the time of the greatest amount of light, where we have the earliest sunrise and the latest sunset, particularly for those that are closer to Antarctica. Okay, and I find it very interesting, just as a baby flips upside down, you hope, not going to be breech, and its head engages in the mother's pelvis, it births down through the south. So I find it very significant that it is a summer solstice that is connecting with this conjunction. For those of you that, watched or loved Jim Henson's film, The Dark Crystal, it was about this conjunction and the inner calling that all the nature worshipping spirits, the gelflings, would do to restore the crystal shard, which is basically soul retrieval, because our true nature is light. Our first incarnation was as a crystal when we were light in form, which is why we're getting so into crystals now, because they're helping us to become more crystalline rather than carbon. Hence we're moving away from fossil fuels, from being so dense and dark and not owning the shadow, being more like a lump of coal, or at best a zirconia. So, all this year, 2020, in preparation for this, we've been put through the grill in terms of the mill, in terms of having to look at more and more of our personal shadow so that we can transmute it and bring the light of awareness into what was unaware. So, and the closer that we've gotten to this date, the more intense that process has been. I'm just going to have a slug of my water. Okay. So, I'm just going to give you a quick thing about what we'll cover today. So first of all, I'm going to do a slideshow about the cosmic energies and their meaning. Then I'll share the intuitive messages that I've received to share with you today. And then some event preparation, because the time of, the ceremony that's being done by the Indigenous elders here at Uluru will be at 3 minutes past 7 p.m. local time in Uluru. That's 3 minutes past Melbourne at 9 p.m. tonight. And so I've got a link I'll be putting in the chat so you can see that in your location. And the elders have requested that we raise the group energy by being as positive today and as heart-centered as we can. And at that exact time, if you can, face Uluru and send the mother your love to be midwives, since we are all fractals of Gaia. So the more that we come together, since, you know, the Aquarian age is about unity consciousness, the more energy that we give to the birthing of this new age of light as it's known. So, thank you. So, being a solstice, this is a very potent time for manifestation. So do be very mindful of the power of word today. And yeah, if you say something negative, you might wish to catch yourself and say, oh, I take that out of the law, or do the Reiki symbol for, you know, cut and clearing, which is simply 3 circles to the right and then a swift line from the left across to the right. But just to say, I take that out of the law, as in I negate that spoken words from being made manifest, because it is through thought, word and deed aligning that we manifest. So we really want to keep our intentions as strong and clear, focusing on what it is that we are birthing and creating today, which is not the reality that has been projected upon us this year. More about that later. So both Saturn and Jupiter have been in Capricorn this year. So not just Jupiter, we also had Saturn and we had Pluto all as a cluster. And the conjunction on January 12 of Saturn and Pluto, I was also doing a dawn ceremony to raise the rainbow serpent, which is the intention of the ceremony tonight at Uluru, because after the energies leave Uluru, they go via what was once known as the Olgas, Jana. Sorry, big balls up there. Oh, I do need to honour the custodians of this land that I'm on, which is the Arunju people. So thank you for having us here, and thank you for the work that you're doing. And we honour all leaders, past, present and emerging. So where was I? So after the energies leave Uluru, they go directly to Bali, which is another big energy vortex. It's one of the 2 places on the geomagnetic grid of the Earth where the main energy lines, the dragon lines as they're called, or the serpents of light, cross over and intercept. And this is why there's so many people doing yoga and fasting and ayahuasca and goodness knows what in Bali, specifically around Ubud, because it's such a powerful vortex. But just like we have vortexes or vortices within our body, there are vortices as the celestial energies move around the cosmos, and they help us to open our own vortices or chakras, wheels of light within our body, so that we can accelerate our understanding and our awareness and become more loving and more wise, rather than fear-based like an immature wounded child, which is the journey we're all on. So easier said than done. So yeah, with that stellium of planets in Capricorn all year, the rules and regulations were so oppressive. It's created almost like, you know, the force of the opposite, like a slingshot pulling back to propel us into an age where personal freedom and liberty and sovereignty is something that is truly honored as part of the foundations of the culture. So, you know, those that had already crossed the divide and individuated from the density of 3D thinking will have found the lockdowns particularly challenging. So, what is the lesson of Capricorn? Okay, well, basically, it calls us to question how we choose to govern ourselves moving forwards. So, Capricorn, the lesson is to question authority, to not just obey like a child, but to be discerning and question whether or not leadership is acting on behalf of the people. And if it isn't, then to take steps accordingly. And the next sign after Capricorn, as the full journeys around the zodiac mandala, is Aquarius. And Aquarius is internalized authority. Okay, so when we look to the only authority within, which is the call of the inner teacher, which is what the word guru means, which is the knowing of the heart, hearing the quiet voice of the heart, which we may receive through synchronicities that confirm our feeling, our sense, but really attuning to what our heart, our conscience is guiding us to do moment to moment, so that we, have. I'm just getting a note from Lynn that there's a bit of background noise. Do I have headphones? I'm so sorry I don't. I can move inside if it gets too distracting. So Lynn, would you let me know? I can't see you to get a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Lovely. Thanks, love. I just wanted to be out here for those that joined late because we can see Uluru in the background there. So, mama. So, yeah, Aquarius is the part of us that, walks to the beat of its own drum. And lots of saying it's fine. Oh, bless you. Appreciate the feedback. Thank you. So, Aquarius is going to be a time not of rebellion, maybe initially, but more reformation, where we become self-governing from our own conscience, because the consciousness rises so that we understand the law of cause and effect, and we can't harm another because we understand we will be creating harm for ourselves and that we are all the one. So this will be us transcending the need for police, the need for governments. Now, obviously, this won't happen today, but we will see now that these huge celestial bodies have moved into Aquarius and are at 0 degrees Aquarius, representing the birth of this new era, that now the old energies can't be held in place anymore. And so everything that is cancerous about them, okay, that is corrosive, that is not in alignment with the values of the Aquarian age, which is humanitarian, egalitarian, and honoring of the raising of consciousness. Anything that is oppressive will now fall away, and more people will join the power of the people. I've said for a number of years, when the serpents rise, the people will rise. So this is very much about the raising of consciousness, and that's why today is so significant, because the ceremony being done here at Uluru is to midwife the rainbow serpent energy, the Kundalini life force, the force of the earth rising up out of the solar plexus, leaving the bottom 3 energy gates and rising up into the heart, the one heart that will unify us all, and then opening up the upper chakras, the other open dimensional realms, which are that of the cosmic self, the star-seeded individual who is becoming awake and on the path to self-realization. So, and I want to make that sort of distinction there, that just because you're awake doesn't mean that you're an avatar. There is a very big difference. Many of us are awake, but we've got L plates on, learner plates on, so we're still regularly falling back into separation and going into fear and all of our neurosis, and then going, oh, okay, remembering our tools and integrating our our shadow, just like a mother helps a child to grow with patience and love, understanding that we're all in a process. And the more of us that are doing that, the easier it gets for the collective. So that's what we're now going to see is this tipping point, now that there's going to be a shift with the airwaves not being controlled by the old guard with the old agenda of monopoly, which is, you know, absolute power for the few. But we're going to see the airwaves again restored to that of the many. So the shift that's happening is from Capricorn, which we can see on screen, and that's not to diss Capricorn. It's served us well. This year we've had to become more responsible, okay, in every way. You know, I've looked at how my lack of emotional regulation has impacted and wounded my child growing up. You know, I've looked at having to become more responsible with finance and, you know, learning about cryptocurrency and gold, so I don't feel so powerless relying on the banks since they brought in the bailout legislation help, which means in a time of crisis they can go in and take 49% of your wealth. So many, like on all fronts it seems, we've been tested this year to become more responsible, and that's a gift from Capricorn. So and to question our structures, how our own structure for our life is keeping us in victim. For instance, if we're not rising with the sun, with the dawn, if we're getting up tired and, you know, going to bed late, you know, we've got a structure for our day, a time structure, which is not supportive of our growth. So these are many gifts that we've received from Capricorn, and it's certainly helped us to examine our traditions and decide, okay, what do we want to keep and what do we want to throw out, okay? So now these planets moving into Aquarius, Pluto will be the final of the three to move from Capricorn to Aquarius in 2024. But now that Saturn and Pluto are in there, we're really going to see things moving ahead. And look at that beautiful image for Capricorn. It's a vase or a vial or a vessel. Now the word priestess means vessel. So whilst this isn't Virgo, the sign of the priestess, it is the vessel giving forth of its bounty. And what's in it? Water. Where there is water, there is life. Okay, we remember the protests at Standing Rock, because without water, there can't be life. Okay, it's in the waters of the womb, the amniotic fluid, that a fetus can come to full term. And so too, our world has become more and more looking like the topography of Mars, when those who didn't honor the feminine element of water, and we became so out of balance, like T.S. Eliot's poem, The Wasteland, you know, our waterways have been compromised because we haven't honored the gift of life and the regenerative powers of water. So it's interesting, what I was guided to bring here was water that was gifted to me by one of my students from Mecca, and only Islamic people of the Islamic faith can access Mecca. So I feel incredibly lucky to have been gifted this vial of holy water from Mecca. And I also have brought with me a vial of water from the red and white spring at Glastonbury. And what was given to me was these sacred waters from both the holy places of the East and the West. And I've got with me a grail cup, and I'll be combining those and pouring them as a libation onto the earth here to help to, as a priestess of the holy waters that have cycled within me and cycle within all of you, since we're all connected through that sacred cycle. I will take all of your prayers for the earth into that elixir and end the the senseless duality that has come from religious wars and the warring of philosophy, so that we can move forwards, regardless of whether we have a difference of opinion or outlook, understanding that we're all, 70% sacred waters of life. We are sacred beings. And this is a time for us to pour our love back into the earth, to return it to green, like the Rainbow Bridge prophecy that the Hopi brought through, as well as the Polynesian people, the Mayans, which said that at this time, people of all colours would come together, gathering in circle, remembering the ancient traditions and teachings and practices, and return the earth back to green. And this vessel is synonymous for me of the grail, which is the sacred womb within all women, which gains power with our life initiations. So that's monarch, when we receive our first bleed, and then every subsequent period that we journey as a menstrual shaman, honouring the sacred waters, the regenerative life giving properties of the blood that can literally heal wounds and bring grey hair. I should be putting some perhaps on my silver hairs, but I'm quite accustomed to them. And so we're going to see, hence we've seen the practice of the red tent as we approach this date, becoming something more and more women are remembering from when it was practiced before the rise of the empires, and honouring our sacred time, our most inward time, when the blood is spiralling in the womb, taking our consciousness deep within the earth. And one of the messages that I was given was asking us to be one with the mother today. And so for those of you whose grail time, whose moon time, whose bleeding time has coincided with this conjunction, do consider marking yourself, whether that's honouring your 7 gates, anointing yourself with your grail, or you might feel to paint sacred symbols on your vessel, and or even, anoint your third eye, place some on your tongue to go into a light trance, and to be one with the mother, to send her love, knowing that we are indivisible from her, because your psychic energy is very expanded when you are bleeding. And this is why, of course, the empires separated women at that time and said you can't gather in moon lodges, because our psychic power is so powerful. But we can utilize it and use it to vision the future that we want for our future generations. So we are moving out of density into fresh ideas and a lightness of being. This is why we've seen the rise of veganism. We've seen the rise of people doing water fasts and eating, lighter, cleaner, and in particular leading up to this conjunction. So, and that's not to say, meat is evil. I've been having fish even though I've been cleansing, because that's what my body needed. So listen to your body. Don't impose from the mind onto your body what you should and shouldn't eat, but rather listen to and observe cause and effect, because every body is different, and at every stage in our life its needs change. But this is about being kind with our bodies. We can see how many people have had self-loathing towards their bodies. The more we can heal that, because we're indivisible from the earth, the more the earth mother can heal. And she feels it when we abuse our bodies, whether that's with drugs, alcohol, food, so this is a time of being deeply reverent with our bodies, speaking kindly about our bodies, looking upon them with love. So we are leaving the heaviness of 3D, and you can see now on screen the image that I showed those of you who joined me for the Lion's Gate on the 8th of the 8th month earlier this year. This is when we move our whole solar system. It moved in 2012 into the photon belt. Photons are particles of light, and you can see here that It's during the age of Aquarius, a 2,000-year astrological age, and then halfway around the precession of the equinoxes during the age of Leo, which is, when the pyramids were built. That was another renaissance of consciousness on the earth, when we knew ourselves to be gods. And that is not sacrilegious, as the empires taught, but it's understanding that's us reaching our potential. Just like you wouldn't deny a seed becoming a flower, reaching for the sun and opening, which is why we see so many mandalas now, and the flower power of the cusp period of the 60s when that began, because our consciousness is flowering. Our lotuses of light, our chakras, not just the 7 but the hundreds all over our body, are like popcorn, opening and flowering, and we're becoming able to perceive more subtle vibrations and information through that, so we can feel each other. We can be kinder and more considerate and empathic because we can sense each other more. And this is just going to be expanded off tap. So if you thought you'd been born too late and you missed your time, you missed the 60s, that was just the trailer for what it is we're about to see. Okay, so it's going to be a fun ride. And we are through the darkest times. So well done on surviving 2012 without topping yourself, because more souls left the planet this year due to the oppression than at any other time. So if you have felt ahead of your time or struggled to be here in the earth plane, in this dense realm where people were so unconscious and wounded each other, this is a day to rejoice. Okay. So those of us that are here at this time are very lucky. We're going to witness a renaissance that we can't even conceptualize from where we sit today. So Jupiter, the planet of expansion, will be in Aquarius for most of 2021, save for a couple of short retrograde periods where it appears to be moving backwards from our vantage point, and it will go back just momentarily. But all year Jupiter is going to expand the values of Aquarius. So that's innovation to serve the greater good and future generations. That's visionary, radical new ideas born of inspired imagination, because we often see the lightning bolt, like Harry Potter's scar, associated with Aquarius, because it's those Shazam moments, those flashes of insight, those aha moments that Aquarius gifts us, which is the inspiration to then gift that idea, to manifest it as our offering to humanity. And we're all visionaries, but we have to become like that empty vessel. We have to be humble and receptive and surrender to a greater power in order to receive that intuitive gift of inspired thought. So the sooner we humble the ego, the easier we find the shift. So this energy is very non-conformist, very inclusive, very celebrating of diversity. It's unity consciousness or oneness. It's very much about free energy, Kundalini, which is, the life force energy within all of us, the serpent energy, which again was repressed by demonizing the serpent in the patriarchal doctrines. But it's also about clean energy, hence the glyph of Aquarius is energy. So everything now is about vibration, frequency. We hear our kids going, yeah, I'm vibing. It's because we're understanding we are energetic beings, first and foremost. We are not just physical beings. So this is about bringing disparate ideas into coherent new systems. So those of you that have been frustrated with the system because we acknowledge that it is too removed from the needs of the people, it is cumbersome, it is full of bureaucracy, and it's of the mind, that is going to be completely reworked now so that it is coherent and cohesive, and it represents the future, where we're headed, not the past, where we've come from. And it's inspired by a vision of utopia, okay, of how good could it be? How can it look better than this? And that's a great phrase to use whenever you're experiencing something joyful. It's also about sudden, unexpected change. So if you've experienced that this year, and there's certainly more to come as we move into Aquarius, always bless it, okay? Because a curse often then turns out to be a blessing. So no matter what happens, trust the process, trust that it is the divine plan and it is working for you. The universe, the multiverse is benevolent. So bless it rather than curse it, and then you're more able to see the blessings in that change. So there we see Saturn. It moved into Aquarius on December 18, and Jupiter moved in on the 20th, yesterday. And just take a look at those rings around Saturn. Saturn represents the cycles of time. So in ancient astrology, before Greco-Roman mythological influence, when they rewrote Saturn as Kronos, Father Time, it represented in matriarchal times a feminine deity of cyclic wisdom. And this was the energy of the crone, meaning one who is crowned with wisdom, or the grandmother of time. So regardless of what your take on it is, it'd be nice to see both the grandmother and the grandfather of time ushering us in to this new era. And it's Saturn that sets the tone for a new generation. Remember I said these two planets you can see on screen, Jupiter, which expands the influence of Saturn, and Saturn come together every 18 to 20 years. That's what's creating a new generation. And the signature of the new generation starting today is Aquarius. So the babies that are coming through from now for the next 20 years, they're going to have all of those values and gifts of Aquarius in spades to bring through ingenious solutions to some of the problems that have plagued us, such as, pollution and the changing climate and things like that. So, and we're already seeing that already. It's the younger generation that are really going to be coming through with ingenuity. So our job, those of us that are older, is to support them, to believe in them, to encourage them to fulfill their potential, and to invest in them in any way that we can. Jupiter, the other planet in this conjunction that you can see on screen, just going to get some more water, was known as Jove, hence the term by Jove by the Romans. He was known as Zeus to the Greeks. So this is who they prayed to. This is who they saw as God, the God of good fortune, shine upon me, Jupiter, expand my fortunes, my luck, right? You might know him as Biggest Dickus if you're into Monty Python, or the Boss Man. So basically what Jupiter says goes, because he's the biggest planet in our solar system. And he has 5 moons, which I find interesting, given that Zeus was said to be such a philanderer and have so many female companions, many he took by force, unfortunately. But he is like the year king in the ancient grail tradition that was the mystic religion of love all throughout Bridget's Isles, later renamed British Isles, and Europa, which then got renamed Europe. So all through the ancient Celtic lands that are certainly my heritage, but even beyond that, the Grail, which was this beautiful religion based on the cycles. And part of that was the Hieros Gamos, which is beloveds coming together and in sacred sexuality at different vortices on the seasonal wheels, like the solstices today, bringing their serpents of light together to raise the energy of the collective consciousness, so as an act of love, and directing that energy when raised, that multi-orgasmic energy, out as a gift through all space and time, to all beings. And so it is the work of the tantrikas and the tantriques, the grail maidens, the grail kings, that is going to be returning more and more as we recover from what has been, and the repression of that, which has created then more of a war culture, not balanced by the wisdom of the feminine and the cycles. So what else do I want to say about that? So let me just put on screen, you can see the generations that we've had in those 20-year cycles. We had the GI generation, so those that lived through the First World War, then the silent generation that came after that, who really, having been born, between these huge genocides on the planet, war being a blood sacrifice enacted by the elite, with humans just being pawns for that in their dark occult practice. The people in that generation often really struggled to have a voice. Then we had the baby boomers, and the conjunction happened in Taurus for them, so they were very much about living life large and enjoying themselves, the earthly pleasures. Generation X, my generation, so every 13th generation, according to Native American traditions, is a generation of change, and that was generation 13. A lot of indigo rainbow warriors coming in at that time, going, right, let's turn this ship around. And the millennials, so 1981 through to the year 2000, Libra, so we see a lot of bisexuality in that generation, really wanting to acknowledge we are feminine and masculine and restore the balance. And then the Gen Zs, who, again, the signature is Taurus, so they're really restoring beauty in a big way. So the next one, I don't know what we're going to call them, but they're going to be governed by Aquarius. So I spoke before about how these two large planets can appear as the one star, which they did, in prior to the last astrological age, starting the age of Pisces. And we see on screen the three wise men, which were Zoroastrians, they were Magis, so sacred magicians, not men pulling rabbits out of hats, but men who studied the stars and the sacred cycles of time and the birth of an avatar. And yes, we may get the birth of an avatar around this conjunction, but it's more that this is about us all awakening our star nature, our stellar nature, remembering that we are not just animals, here to eat and shit and have sex, but we are here to awaken our full potential, our star-seeded potential, as beings that have both Neanderthal DNA and star-seeded DNA, so that we can anchor heaven on earth. So this is very much a time of restored hope. If we look at the tarot card, the star, lovely birds, we see on screen, the water bearer, and she's pouring a libation, one onto the earth and one into the water, representing a portal to the other dimensional realms, which is what any body of natural water is. So for those of you where it's warm enough to swim, if you have access to a natural body of water to go and cleanse yourself in and to open up the 7 gates by toning today. I did that yesterday in a beautiful water source called Ormiston Gorge, an hour and a half out of Alice Springs, and I was very fortunate enough to have it all to myself, and so I was able to swim naked and sit on the banks and tone and open my gates, just to ask that you're a clear vessel, and you know, that you're ready for the rainbow serpent to help move through you as a fractal of Gaia for this conjunction and the coming times. So the card, the star, it represents a time of renewed inspiration and hope for our future and an attunement to our spirituality. And it's shown there with 8 points to the star. And that is the star of Ishtar, as it was known. Ishtar was the Babylonian name for Venus, the goddess of love. So it's a return to love, which is what any advanced civilization is governed by and aspires to operate in a field of, knowing that there is no greater force than love. So, you know, this is a heralding, a return of the sacred feminine within all people, masculine and feminine, to restore the balance, and a restoration of the grail, which will restore peace and goodwill on earth. And that's what Christmas was ultimately about. It got distorted, but it was the tradition of the grail. And if you'd like more info about that, I've done a video called Sacred Union and the Holy Grail, and that's on my website, themoonwoman.com. So you might like to watch that today even. You know, this is a time when the grail will return. And there's, you know, an image of Aquarius. How similar is that to the star? You know, so this is, we're going to be in the energy of the star, not just today, but for the next 2,000 years of, you know, really looking at how we can expand our human potential, which is very exciting. So many see it as, oh, the Messiah is returning. And I love this meme, Jesus is coming, keep calm and look busy. But, you know, this is a time of us all becoming the Messiah. We are all going to save the world together, hence all the superhero films we've been seeing. And for those that have been seeing 11:11 on their clocks or their odometers, or just synchronistically, you have already been awakening to this new energy of oneness and the 11 master being. What is the 11 master being? Well, it's all of us when we awaken the meridians of the feminine and masculine energies within our own energy field. And if you want to know more about that, I have a book which you can download as a Kindle. I believe you can. You can download it as an ebook from my website. Lynn, I might ask that you put the link for that in the chat. But I speak about, you know, the 11:11 beings and practices and teachings to awaken those twin serpents, which is the Kundalini. And the framework that I know of how to do that from my time in Babylon. And interesting, I saw that it was 3000 BC that the Babylonian empire was birthed, or civilization, I should say. And it was a very sacred society. Babylon was built upon the 6-pointed star, and there were 3 conjunctions in that year as well. So similarly, I feel that we're going to be birthing a very sacred civilization, because we've had a triple conjunction this year. The conjunction on January 12 of Saturn and Pluto, and then the conjunction of Pluto, oh God, I can't think which planets it was, but it coincided with the winter solstice, and I did a live event, and that also combined with an eclipse, and now this 3rd conjunction. So this is a very big deal. So this will be a time when we see many beloveds and soul monads, soul groups uniting from this point in, and through that doing incredible sacred work on the planet. And the way that we bring that in, our twin flame or our beloved, is to awaken the twin flames within us. And again, there's a chapter on that in my book that I mentioned if you want more specific info on that. So 1111 is also a time of expanded manifestation, which is why on the 11th of the 11th, there's been a push to encourage people to focus more on what we want rather than what we don't want, which is what the empires did by anchoring it as Remembrance Day and getting us to focus on war. And if we look at, you know, the Masonic symbolism of, you know, all the military bases and how the cities have been architectural, then, you know, you can see that it's all to worship war. And so now the guard is shifting for us to worship love and peace. So, yeah, for us to focus at 11:11 each day, you'll often synchronistically see it come up at a time when you're doing something that's very much aligned with serving the all. So because we're in a solstice today, we actually have an impact on what we vision for today for the next 6 months, okay? Similar to an eclipse. So some people say 6 weeks until the next seasonal gate or vortex. But because we have a solstice every 6 months, my knowing is that the trajectory of manifestation is 6 months. And the next 6 months aren't necessarily going to be peace, love, and mung beans on the planet as we see the collapse of the old order and, you know, the sort of the ground zeroing so that the new can emerge. It's like you've got to have compost in order to create a beautiful, fertile garden. So we bless that, but we hold the space no matter what is collapsing, be it the economic system or governance or, you know, whatever structures we clung to and went, well, that gives me a sense of security. Let them fall, hold the space of what it is we do want, rather than getting sucked into a dystopian projection onto our organic timeline, which is that of the new normal that they've tried very hard to get us to focus on with their dastardly plan, but it's become more of a laughing stock of late. You know, I don't know if any of you have seen the footage of a minister getting a positive COVID test when he inserted the test into a glass of cola. So anyway, fortunately, more and more scientists, barristers, doctors are stepping forward so that you know, people that are recognized within the system are saying, hey, this is a front for a much darker agenda. You know, technocracy to try and, you know, harness the Aquarian age, which is very much the information age, digital, to create a sense of unity through we're all one because of this external enemy, and getting people in a fear-based consciousness. But it's basically the wolf in sheep's clothing. So it's not offering peace, it's offering fear dressed up as, you know, kindness. So when we've awakened, you know, the 11, the twin serpents, and opened up the rainbow bridge, we're able to download intuition and discern what is truth from what is fiction, or what is illusion that's been cast as truth but is really delusional. So you know, those that, bless them, have been trying so hard to hold on to their power that they've amassed, you know, during this time, knew how powerful this conjunction was. And so, you know, they've tried to focus the collective mind on something that would serve them. But also, I'm going to touch on this a little bit later so that we can have a place of compassion for them rather than, you know, be in a polarized, you know, those villains. But suffice to say, instead of a fantasy of absolute power taking place, we are trumping them, and yes, that's an intentional term, with the power of love. And here is a beautiful quote from William Gladstone, which you've probably heard. We look forward to the time when the power of love will replace the love of power. Then will our world know the blessings of peace. That is what we are serving. That is what we are coming into, because those who seek power only do so because they don't believe love is possible. So power is what the wounded ego seeks out, one who doesn't really know love, doesn't know self-love. And so they fear a loss of power in terms of survival. So knowing this, we can send love to those who have tried to get away with a global genocide through, RNA vaccinations that alter the DNA and put a lid on the rising of consciousness, and make us more machine than human, more than sentient. And understand they only do so because they're so wounded and they don't believe that love is possible. They haven't really had a true experience of love. They haven't opened up their one heart to the love of humanity. And that's the only way that they could do such a thing. So send them our love, knowing there's no greater force, rather than sending them your hate, which is really fear, acted out as aggression, because that will dissolve just like a water, waves erode cliff faces, rock. It will dissolve what has been. Whereas if we are afraid of them, we give them power over us. So we have learned over the last couple of millennia that we've learned what love isn't. And I had a very powerful breathwork session before I left Bali. And I traveled through a vortex through to Hawaii, where I met with a shaman. And he said to me, the first half of your life has been learning about what love isn't. And the next half is about learning what love is. And these felt like words for humanity, not just for me. And so we're now recovering from the trauma of the generational inheritance of what love wasn't, okay, as we became more and more separated, like the divide and conquer, those that have been orchestrating what we're now seeing the end game of, consciously set about to break down community and the family unit, knowing that when we come together, when we weave, we are stronger. So by coming together in circle, by coming together in ceremony, the things that have been banned this year, we create a vortex that is, able to move mountains. So here we see on the screen an image of the 7 major energy centers. And it's the bottom 3 that the group mind has been stuck in for a millennia. And that means that reality is only perceived at the level of the physical in the root, the emotional in the sacral, and the mental level in the solar plexus. And so by opening these 7 gates, which I believe the critical mass has done, we are now ready to experience the activation of the rainbow serpent from the center of the earth, from Shambhala, her crystalline diamond heart, all the way up through the totemic pole that is, the world's soul. So hence people are gathered here at Uluru, and it is specifically to midwife the activation of the rainbow serpent up through us as vessels, and sending our love to Gaia, understanding that we are one and indivisible from her, and all the way up to the great central sun, which is the brightest star in the Pleiades, which is what our solar system has entered into as the 7th solar system, spiraling around Alcyone. So the Seven Sisters, as the Pleiadians is known, it represents the 7 feminine archetypes that govern those 7 chakras. And if you want more info about that, you can check out my book, The Inner Goddess Makeover. Again, you can download it as an ebook if you want. But here on screen is the poster of my Rainbow Bridge tour in 2013. So after 2012, when our solar system moved into this upward spiral of ascension around Alcyone, we saw more and more people, doing yoga and meditating and practicing mindfulness. And so, we've been in this kind of almost like a boarding lounge, ready for this cosmic rebirth. So, it has been a pressure cooker. Here's beautiful Uluru, so you can get a good look at it. It is behind me. I'm going to show you again for those that might have joined after I held it up on screen, if you can see that in the background. I found it very fascinating. I was so lucky to sit with a Wurundjeri woman. Wurundjeri is the tribe in the area of Melbourne where I lived for 10 years before Bali. And she initiated me for my 50th, and she told me that Uluru means goodbye. And she's here at this time as well. And the reason that she said that is that in Sri Lankan, the word Uluru means goodbye. And it was once the one landmass, Australia and India. And you'll see that the Southern Indians, who are very dark, look very similar to the Aboriginal people, beautiful, elongated physicality, and very mystic beings, very multidimensional, wise beings. So, and the oldest people on the planet, goodness. Where was I going with all that? Sorry, my thought just totally got lost in that. Right, I was talking about goodbye. So we both thought it very significant that, we are leaving 3D Earth with this conjunction as the life force of the mother rises up out of Uluru. So those of you who are listening to this in Bali, it'd be great for you to do, chakra breathing, chakra toning, any Kundalini yoga to help bring the energy through as the serpent moves from Uluru to Bali and then up to Glastonbury, those of you that are in Glastonbury, and then around the rest of the grid. So it's as if we've been in this kind of boarding lounge for the higher dimensions, and we've all been in a state of transit all year. And we know, when you've got to catch a plane or whatever, there's a certain level of heightened vigilance and anxiety, because you're going from one place or one state of being to another. Being in transition is moving out of your comfort zone. So this year has been uncomfortable. But now we're at that liftoff point to truly become global galactic citizens, to remember that we are first and foremost star nations here having a human experience. So this has been a time, particularly since 2012, of us living through the prophesized revelations, which simply comes from the Latin revelatio, meaning the revealing or the unveiling of truth. And here we have an image on screen of Salome, the priestess of Ishtar, or Venus as she was known in Babylon, unveiling. This is why the priestesses that have been initiated to awaken the rainbow serpent up through their 7 chakras did the dance, the 7 veils, as a meditation practice people could look upon and have, epiphanies of realization as they looked upon priestess dancing as if she were a flame, because she's just asking spirit to move through her as a vessel, and she would symbolically remove veils. And that's the task of the priestesses. They remove the veils of illusion. They show us the truth. They show us what it is we don't want to see necessarily, the shadow, what's been unconscious. They bring it into our awareness so that we have to integrate it, so that we can weave together all the disparate parts of our psyche and heal our psyche. So that's what we've been doing this year. It's also been referred to as the apocalypse, which does sound rather terrifying, but it comes from the word apocalypsis, which just means to uncover. Okay, so this is a time when we will see disclosure more and more. You know, the darker occult practices had their power when they were operating in the dark. Okay, but now that more and more people are daring to look and see and acknowledge this is actually happening and has been happening for a very long time, they lose their power in the light. Okay, so just like when you turn a light on in a room, there's no darkness, it's that instant. So we've been in this pressure cooker preparing, and the closer we've gotten to this gateway, the more shadow has surfaced. So it's been a year of intense transmutation personally and collectively as we were exposed to more and more of the global shadow. So I see the ceremony that's happening here this evening very much as a Pleiadian ceremony, even though the Pleiadians, which are the beautiful beings of love and light, very tall beings from the Seven Sisters or Pleiades star system, they've been around us all year, unseen in large ships. I had a friend that saw a ship that was as large as Australia, like they've been holding love, sending love, you know, and you know, I know myself when I've had very intense shamanic journeys on the dance floor, I've had experiences being surrounded by Pleiadians, putting me in beautiful diamond sarcophaguses and sending me love and light. So, you know, we are so held by these beautiful beings. For those of you that fear aliens because we've been taught to see them as alien, we have their DNA. They are family. So they are a part of us just as we are a part of them. So there really is nothing to fear, and they have nothing but love for us, these beings. Now, I know there are some other dimensional beings that aren't as benevolent, but the ones that are midwifing the shift, that are giving us a step up, but only when we invite it, because that is the law, the universal law of free will, that unless we invite their help, they can't assist us. So if you are struggling with transmuting all the dark that's coming up, that you're being exposed to in yourself and your family and your loved ones and the world, ask for their assistance to, you know, integrate that consciously so you don't feel like you're going mad. Okay, now I've got a couple of links that I want to share with you. This is if you would like more information about the ceremony that the Indigenous are going to be doing this evening. Can I share that? I don't think I can do that without stopping sharing my screen. Give me a minute. Okay, I'm going to share this with all panelists and attendees. There we go, those of you that are here live. So those of you that are subscribers, I'll send these links out in an email with the recording. So there's just a couple of articles that will shed more light, if you haven't already read them, about the ceremony, as well as the exact time that they've asked everyone to face Uluru and send love to the mother, to midwife the shift. in all locations around the world. So you can click on that time and date link there to see what time it will be in your neck of the woods. You're welcome. Just scroll down. You'll see the UTC or the Greenwich Mean Time, the Universal Time. Get out. It's 11:11 in New Zealand at that time. Oh my God, the place of first light. That is exquisite. Thank you so much for sharing that. Gorgeous. All right, I'll go back to sharing my screen. Share. Great. Okay, so we are going through a metamorphosis. We're going from being the hungry caterpillar, like must have more Netflix, must have more donuts, to, you know, an ego death, a psychological and emotional death of, I can't have necessarily what I want, but I'll get what I need. And I need to see the blessings in that and understand that this is a time of death, of everything that we've outgrown. So 2020 has been a year of endings, for many endings of relationships, friendships, jobs, careers, you know, perhaps their faith in a particular organized religion. So this is a time when people are, you know, in a chrysalis. You know, the lockdown has been like a chrysalis for many. And, you know, that too has served us in that we've had to focus on ourselves. There was no, you know, we couldn't distract ourselves as much. So the shift happens when we hand over our burden to a higher power and we say help. Okay, that's when we make the shift, or the ego death, known as the shaman's death in Native American, when we acknowledge we can only go so far as an independent child or teenager trying to make things happen. And when we invite the unknowable, great mystery in, and we say, use me as a vessel. Yeah, use my hands, my mind, my body in service to the greater good. It then opens up our genius, because we're all geniuses, because the soul is a genius. There's a horrible noise in the background, so sorry about that. I don't know what it is. Sounds like, you know, when you pull the neck of a balloon apart, but I know it's not that. But anyway, unfortunately, the center here at Uluru is not necessarily conscious. So in all things in time. So we're going from being caterpillars to butterflies. So in that process, the caterpillar dissolves. It becomes, you know, liquid. So too, we drown in our own tears. And it is through grief that we then go through to the other side. We collapse like the torus. Those of you that know the energy field of the torus, where you sink down, you allow yourself to completely, you know, dissolve in grief. And then out of that, this surrender happens, and you open your multi-dimensional awareness of a higher power, who then starts speaking directly through you, to you, through symbol, through synchronicity. So 11:11 and the whole Aquarian age is a time of synchronicity, and this is how we get into that slipstream of finding our wings and life starting to become more graceful, full of miracles. And the more we notice those miracles and bless those miracles, the more they start to happen. So this is a time when, you know, we are going to be more aligned with the divine than we ever have before. So if you feel like you've struggled with faith, we will be doing a prayer at the end, which was very powerful for me when it was gifted to me to speak by Andrew Bartzis, who is a galactic historian, which we'll be doing at the end of the program. So transformation is the key from making that transition, okay, from grief into ecstasy. okay, feeling the oneness with the divine. And so we can experience that through any trance-inducing practice. So here on screen, we've got someone playing didgeridoo because it uses circular breath, okay? Somebody who is so adept at their breath, they can breathe, you know, in and out of the mouth through the instrument and breathing in through the nose at the same time to sustain it. This creates a vortex down the shaman's pipe, which opens up. When we hear didgeridoo, it opens up the magic flute within us. Okay, so the chakras are like the holes in a flute, and when they're open, it's said that the winds of heaven can sing through us. And I remember Barbara Handclough, the Mayan astrologer and elder, predicted there would be a time when we would all need to let our note out. And I feel that that time is now upon us. And because the language of the Aquarian age is light, color, sound, and movement, you know, we're moving beyond language of the rational mind to the more sentient languages. We understand that sound not only can harm or heal, but it has a color. So each note in the scale opens a different color ray or energy center in those 7 gates. So, you know, you might want to Google some didgeridoo music on YouTube, or if you've got crystal bowls, this is a beautiful day to play those, you know, especially during the time of the solstice. But for me, one of the ways that I journey through vortices and experience death and rebirth, and then being one with the mind of God, download insights from that quantum field of infinite intelligence, is through breath work, which is circular breathing. So I wanted to share with you what happened in the 2 sessions of breath work that I did to prepare for this great conjunction. For me, the first one that I did it one-on-one with a woman, and a truckload of grief came out, which isn't unusual for me. And it started with my own personal grief, but very quickly I went through a vortex into the existential grief of what was being done to the mother. And that's when my true self came forward, who I've met many times before, who was very ancient, Lemurian, and I was speaking in a very ancient tongue, and I was bellowing grief to the point where I was hoarse afterwards, feeling the grief of the mother and what has been done to her. And again, I experienced a very clear call to be here at this time in Uluru. The second session I did last week was an online session, free online session. I just did it from my lounge room. And this time I experienced the other polarity of ecstasy. Now, often in a breathwork journey, I'll experience grief, then ecstasy, or even ecstasy and then grief, but the 2 polarities in the one, or I'll experience just one polarity and then in the next breathwork session, the other. But suffice to say, I went into an ecstatic state, and I felt myself giving birth, but I was giving birth to myself, and I could literally feel the head crowning. I could see in my mind's eye vividly, lucidly, this dark black curly hair as I came out with, and I could feel I was holding my feet and breathing, and I literally birthed the body of myself, and then went into an expanded state and channeled, and then I birthed the placenta. And the information, the message that was given to me was that we are all being asked to birth the star-seeded self now, ourselves. This is what was known as the second birth in mysticism. And that is because when we incarnated into utero, into our mother's womb, so many of us, being such expanded, sentient, high-frequency beings, felt the overwhelm of our mothers and took that on as I'm a burden. Not wanting to burden our mothers, we took on this, oh, I better compensate. I better be as good as I can, or I better achieve, or, you know, these compulsive, neurotic behaviors, because we're trying to compensate for this universal core wound, which is the belief that we are a burden. And in birthing myself in an ecstatic state, I birthed myself as a divine gift. And this healed that original wound, which was then anchored by the doctrines of original sin deliberately, so that if we thought that we were a blight on the face of the earth, akin to a virus, then we would act out in a way that believed that and be a destructive force unconsciously. Whereas if we understand the truth of who we are, that we are coming to earth as a divine gift to heal, to bring forth beauty, acts of love, then everything we do from that is with grace. You know, everything is supported. We're not always apologizing, as we see so many young people do, and I know I did when I was younger, saying sorry for no reason, because unconsciously they're apologizing for being. So this, for me, is what is so significant. And this, if you take nothing else from this today, it's healing this, the belief that you are a burden, to understanding that you are a divine gift, and we need you here at this time, and we're so happy and grateful. Only you, in the way you are, your energy, the way you express it, like no other, totally beyond comparison, is needed. And you have everything within you need for your mission. So I felt my light expand like a huge plasma orb, you know, those glass orbs where you put your hand and you see like electricity. And I felt my 12-strand DNA all rewiring. And I felt my energy field elongating, and I was told the tall ones will find you at Uluru, which is, you know, the Pleiadians. So, you know, I just, like many of you watching this, we've been preparing this, you know, remembering the ancient teachings and practices and disseminating them to wake as many people up to reach that tipping point, you know, in preparation for this time. Again, I'm sorry about the background noise. I'll try and speak as close as I can to the microphone. So, you know, I also wanted to make the point that when we anchor the fact we are a divine gift, this also heals the default of when things get hard, wanting to be beamed up, not wanting to be here, which I know I've struggled with a lot in my life, so that we can fully be here. We can fully embrace and commit to being incarnate in a body. And this is truly what Ascension is about. It's not about jumping off the mothership. It's about actually deepening our commitment and being one with the mother. So understanding that we are fractals of her. So I wanted to also share the point that, you know, those who taught the concept of original sin believed it. And so instead of being haters of, you know, those that are perpetrating that, have compassion for them, you know, or those that are pushing an agenda of depopulation, they believe that they are a burden, and humanity is a burden. So we want to send them the belief that they are a divine gift. so that together we can heal, which is what the ancient cultures understood. We don't heal in isolation. We heal together by coming together. And it's wonderful, those of you that are in imposed lockdowns, you can still come together online. So I'm going to share a link to the woman that ran the free online breath work. She's running another one on January the 20th. I'm just putting it in the chat. There we go. For those of you that, you know, especially if you're in lockdown, to be able to access one online so that you can move those big emotions through that might have been, you know, clogging up the bottom 3 chakras, so that you can release those old toxic sludgy emotions and move through into ecstasy and the understanding experientially that you are a divine gift. For those of you that are not in lockdown, you might want to seek out somebody in person. Just Google breath work. It's also called rebirthing, so holotropic breath work. So we'll keep on trucking. I'm so sorry about all the noise behind me. So Christianity has believed, because of the Bible, based on the earlier scripture or book called Biblos from Babylon, that at this time many would experience the rapture, okay? In other words, they would leave this earth and go to a higher earth. And, you know, the indigenous also talk about the splitting of time tracks. So those that, you know, are still very much only in the consciousness of the bottom 3 chakras, that have not awakened to the possibility of living from the heart, living in unity consciousness, they will, and it's already been happening, manifest, you know, reasons to leave, because the light, the intensity is so intense, you know, it's so difficult to be in the present tense, okay, that, you know, they'll be drinking or smoking or doing class A drugs, or, you know, in order to cope, because they're not transmuting it. And so, you know, their bodies will simply give up. They can't cope with, you know, the lighter frequencies. Whereas if we're doing the work internally, transmuting those emotional states, the heavy emotional states like grief and rage, then, you know, we don't have as much need for self-soothing with substances, and we're becoming lighter, okay? So, you know, there have been some that have said only a small few are going to get through to the higher frequency earth. I don't find that type of perspective helpful. I think it is limited, fear-based, and counterproductive. There have been others that have said, if you're just 51% a good person, you'll go through. So, you know, despite the fact that the controlled airwaves show us a world of fear-based behaviors and war, what we're not shown is the revolution, which won't be televised. So more and more people are awake now than ever before. And the more we affirm that, the more it is so. So, you know, we are now raising our energy so that we will have more, we will be more of a plasma being. So take a look on screen now. Have a look at the bluish part of the flame. That is the hottest part of the flame. That is plasma. Now, the ancient civilizations understood plasma. It's what they harnessed as a free energy. It's how they moved the bricks of the pyramids. And that's thanks to the work of the physicist Nassim Haramein. If you want to know more about that, using plasma, they could heat the rock so that it became almost, you know, like jelly, and then get these beautiful finishes to the stone. But we are becoming plasma, okay, by quickening our flame, becoming hotter. And this is where the hole in the ozone and everything serves us, and the heating of, you know, the earth, global warming is serving us. Everything is part of the divine plan. Things are hotting up, you know, like a mustard seed in a pan. We're cracking open with the heat. But we are becoming more like the Pleiadians, which are made of plasma, this beautiful blue energy. And it's also why, you know, you see images of like deities like Krishna and they're blue, or why Avatar with these blue beings really captured our attention as a collective. So, you know, doing Kundalini based raising processes helps to refine our flame so that, you know, it oscillates at a higher and higher frequency, like that sound wave band that is the symbol for Aquarius. And you'll find that you can't be around people that aren't at the same bandwidth, the same frequency as you, because it becomes painful. It's like it's mutually invalidating, mutually harming and wounding. So, you know, this is a time of gravitating towards those that are, you know, oscillating at your frequency, and loving those from a distance that are operating on a different frequency. Okay, I'm seeing the time. We've got half an hour. I'm on 18% of my computer, so let's see how we go. So unlike the age of Pisces, where everything felt like we were moving in two directions simultaneously and it was, you know, a struggle, everything was out of sync. Now we're coming into a time of synchronicity, okay, of being in the flow and experiencing serendipity, unexpected, wonderful happenings. So I wanted to share, this is the card that I pulled. There were some people that really had a go at me on my page for coming to Uluru when the elders had said, you know, please stay away, because understandably they didn't want doof festivals and lots of drugs and, you know, people ascending here that really weren't on a pilgrimage. And the card I pulled was answer the call. What is your soul calling you to do? And that, as I said, really is one of the lessons of Aquarius. It's to individuate from the group mind or from any authority telling you what to do, and just being governed by the knowing of your heart and the intuition, which is the rainbow serpent within. So, and understandably, those who are still obeying the rules set out by authorities, whether that's, you know, ancient traditions or the church or government or, you know, COVID, you know, they can be very angry at those that aren't. You know, it's like, who are you to do that when I'm being good? And so they might mock them or call them freaks or judge them for not being responsible, not being good. And that's, you know, symbolic of someone that's still in duality, in the solar plexus, seeing everything as black and white and good and bad, not understanding that when we move out of space and time, we transcend rules, we transcend duality. So that's where we're all going. So let me just, so I did want to say, in January we're going to have a stellium of planets in Aquarius, Sun, Mercury and Venus, which are all personal planets. So in our personal life, we're going to be challenged to really be our own authority and walk to the beat of our own drum. And that might be, you know, not what our loved ones are doing. And Jupiter and Saturn will also be in early Aquarius. So, you know, Robert Wilkinson, who is a wonderful astrologer, his website, The Aquarius Papers, he predicts that we're going to see more conflict than we've known in early 2021 as the old and the new sort of bump heads. And he says, quote, we will see how stubborn the forces of aggression will be. in conflict with the Aquarian themes of healing, vision, seeing the future clearly, and for the greatest good of the greatest number. There will be tremendous conflict from the increased pressure. So it's important to remember that we don't engage with that conflict. Okay, we bless people that don't get it, that haven't been through the experiences that we've experienced, and we just hold our vision, sending love and light to what it is that we're birthing. Otherwise, we get sucked down a negative vortex into the mind, into power struggles, and that doesn't serve anybody. So, and this is why it's good to send a positive trajectory for the next 6 months. So, okay, how to prepare today? Well, some kind of death ceremony. Now, in India, they worship death rather than worshipping spirit, because they understand that's the doorway to spirit. And there's many types of death, but in a nutshell, you might want to take a photo of this or a screenshot of this. You might want to journal today, identifying any situations, relationships, or beliefs that you've outgrown. Feel the pain of letting that go, releasing it, or the pain that you didn't get to express in the past. Acknowledge the lessons you learnt so you can be grateful for everything you experienced, understanding what it taught you as a gift. And then, only when you've done that, turn to the other side of the crossroads, look to the future, set clear intention, call in your soul needs. You might like to call in your soul monad or your beloved. Call in everything that your soul needs to be in alignment with the Aquarian age and in service to the greater good. And surrender all of that up to a higher power, no matter what you call it, whether you call it, Source or Allah or God, doesn't matter. So, first of all, being in right relationship with ourselves, being prepared for the birth. There's always the death of the maiden before the mother becomes a mother. So this is the equivalent rite of passage if you haven't already done this work in the lead up to today. You might have done it unconsciously, and now you can do it more consciously. Many of you I know will have done it consciously. So the words that I've been getting is clarify the mind, purify the body, and tonify the spirit or the energy system. So to do that, if we see again the rainbow bridge, also known as the yantra, the divine instrument, I'm going to take you through toning that now, which is through sacred sound and these ancient Sanskrit, which is the channeled language, tones that we recalibrate and open these vortices of light. So I do have a track on a digital album on my website called Good Morning Chakra Workout is the name of the album, and the track is Chakra Toning. And we're going to do that. But before I do, I need to go and get a plug and relocate because my thing is down to 12%. So while I do that, have a look at this on screen. This is the revoking of soul contracts. And in your own time, I'd like you to speak that out through all space and time, wherever you're seated. This is just to end anything that could possibly keep you trapped in the mindset of 3D, just as I move inside. I'm just going to charge up my laptop. There we go. This will wake up my 17-year-old who's sleeping in the room, but anyway. Right. Let me just get comfy. Alrighty. So, I rescind and revoke all vows, deeds, covenants, and promises in this and all lifetimes, in all realms and dimensions of space and time. Any vows pertaining to, but not exclusive to, poverty, chastity, obedience, and servitude. I revoke all commitments made to other beings in all time and space. Blessed am I, that my consciousness and subconsciousness is always connected to the purest vibration of benevolent divine light, emanating love and wisdom, and so it is. So again, you're welcome to take a screenshot of that and share it with your loved ones. Now, this prayer from Andrew Bartzis, Accepting the Fifth World of Peace, we are going to speak that. It's quite long all together, wherever you are. But in preparation, I'd like to invite you now to tone, to open up those 7 gates. Now, you'll see the Sanskrit word written on the screen. I'd like to just point out that it's pronounced ah. So lam, vam, ram, yam, ham, om, om. And we're going to tone that, starting with middle C for the base chakra and going up 1 note on the scale, opening up the divine instrument, the yantra that is the rainbow bridge within. So I've got a track from my, it's the chakra toning track. I'm just going to pull it up. And basically we tone that 3 times up the scale. Just going to get seated in lotus. A little bit of a challenge with the laptop. Sorry, Ollie. All right. I think I actually need to put this on the chair. Here's a table. Right. No, I'm going to sit on the floor. Sorry, folks. Logistics in a hotel room. Okay. All right, so you may also want to sit cross-legged on the floor with your hands so that your thumb and your forefinger are connected and your palms upturned on your knees. This just creates a circuitry in your energy field that aligns the mind and the heart. All right, so let me just bring the track, and I'm going to do it with my eyes closed just so that I'm visualizing each energy center within glowing and opening like a wheel of colored light as we tone. So take a deep breath in. Okay. Breathing in. Breathing in and visualizing an orange wheel of light. into the solar plexus, visualizing a golden yellow spiraling wheel of light as we tone Ra. Taking an inhalation. Visualizing a beautiful green flowing spiral of light. You can do it in both directions if you want to activate both circuits. Chanting Bring the energy now and awareness into the throat, visualizing a beautiful electric blue spiraling in both directions as we tone Ha. Bringing the awareness now into Ajna, the brow chakra, third eye, as we tone Om, opening up the indigo center. into the base, and then down into the Earth Star Chakra, a foot beneath you, and into the center of the Earth. If you can do this barefoot, if you can do it sitting on the Earth, weather permitting. So, and if your intuition, I'll just turn this track on. If your intuition asks you to do something else, you follow that as your highest authority rather than what I've suggested. So we will only know at the moment of the solstice exactly what it is that we are being asked to do. So true sorcerers attuned to source, once they've cleared and opened their vessel, and ask spirit, how can I serve? So ritual is spontaneous. It is not a pantomime that is enacted and, you know, thought out from the mind. It is a willingness to show up in the present moment and ask that you be used as a divine instrument to anchor heaven on earth. So, to conclude our session, I have a prayer for humanity. Now, these words are not my own. These were brought through by Andrew Bartzis, who is a galactic historian, and they wanted to be shared today. So I'm going to ask that you speak these aloud wherever you are, and know that as a collective, someone is knocking on the door. Ollie, would you mind answering the door, love? And Ollie is a lump. I'm sorry, I cannot come to the door right now. I don't know that they're going. No, they're still knocking on the door. So sorry. Yeah, not at the moment, thank you. Housekeeping. All right, interesting timing. One sec. Hi, I'm just in the middle of doing a live online thing, so can I please, any time after 9 would be lovely. Thank you so much. Thanks, brother. It's okay. That'll teach me not to put please do not disturb on the door, won't it? Lovely chap. Anyway, all right, so where were we? So here it is. It's quite long. So, but that's how we're going to end our session. Here it is. I'm just pulling it up. All right. There. One sec. Lovely. All right. Take a moment to just center yourself in your heart. You may like to take your awareness first down to your base chakra at the bottom of your spine and send energetic roots down into the center of the earth, into that beautiful crystalline temple of light that is within the heart of Gaia, our Earth Mother. And then attuning your heart to her heart, knowing how loved you are by her. Take a deep breath into the heart, breathing in her love. Her total acceptance for you just as you are now, trusting you've done enough, you are ready. And now breathing that energy up, beautiful rose energy from the mother all the way up, unconditional love, up the spine, flowering the rose in the heart, bringing it all the way up to the crown, emerging as beautiful. I'm being shown deer antlers for the sacred masculine, that look like the branches of the tree of life, the Shekinah, all the way up to the great central sun, to the heart of the Divine Father. And connecting those filaments of light in with his beautiful expanded consciousness, his divine love and light. And breathing that gold light all the way down, in through the crown and into the heart. And feeling that holy child within you, that beautiful starseed held by both cosmic parents. Take a deep breath, breathing in this loving support. Open your eyes, and together as one we speak this prayer for ourselves, all of humanity, and our beloved Earth Mother. I, in the ever-present co-creative moment of the now, connect my signature frequency of being with all aspects of myself in non-hierarchical order, so I may deconstruct the reality around me and create once more without the global infrastructure of distraction and instant gratification guiding me into false sacred moments. O great Spirit, who gives life to all that is and was and ever will be, I call to you in this sacred moment of infinite interconnectedness. Life is a series of interconnected moment-to-moment experiences blending with the I am awareness of space, time, emotions, creating emotions experienced through the red road time. I now call to the east, the eastern doorway of perception, the ancestors who sit within the galactic and universal suns. Come with your clarity and illumination of the 8th color time. I activate my craniosacral pulse, the highest frequencies of sun energy, so I may know the heartbeat that Earth Mother feels in the womb of the universe. I am a fetus in the cosmic universal womb, dreaming this dream in perfect clarity. I call to the south, the southern doorway of perception. I understand this calling in is in the order of those in the northern hemisphere. You may, for those of you in the southern hemisphere, wish to, okay, hang on. I haven't done it with you. I'm so sorry. There you go. So we can do it together now from my call to the eastern doorway. I call to the eastern doorway of perception, the ancestors who sit within the galactic and universal suns. Come with your clarity and illumination of the 8th color time. I activate my craniosacral pulse with the highest frequencies of sun energy, so I may know the heartbeat that Mother Earth feels in the womb of the universe. I am a fetus in the universal womb, dreaming the dream in perfect clarity. I call to the southern doorway of perception, the ancestors who teach us how to keep our internal waters in balance, to learn to connect back to our sacred waters that surround us as a fetus in our mother's womb, in our density manifest, our pericardium, in our eternal waters of life. I, in this ever-present, connected I am self moment, clear my sacred waters of life through all dimensions, times, I'm trying to read that, galaxies and universes. I call to the western doorway of dreamtime perception. I call to 7 future generations of myself, my clan, my nation, and my Earth Mother. Come, hold sacred space with my self-reflection of who I am, what I am, how I dream this dream. Me dreaming you, you dreaming me. The Earth Mother dreaming all of us in communion and union with Source incarnate dreaming now. I call to the northern doorway of ancestral blue road relations, those that have taught us and continue to teach us what equal co-creation from the heart space means in living every moment to moment with all sentient kind, sharing the common moral code of do no harm to any creature kind. Expanding my awareness of the northern doorway, I go deep into the Blue Road ancestral councils. I manifest my I am dreaming self in communion and union with the Blue Road Council of Elder Ancestors. I pass the Blue Road communal talking stick to the Chief Elder of the North. Aho, Red Road walkers, I say these words unto you. The generations of the past reach out to you in the unseen world no longer. We share your sovereign reality of do no harm to any sentient being. We share our story with you. We share our teachings with you, so the future may exist. You are our living hope of continued service to our soul family lineages evolving in the fifth world of peace, manifested in the Earth Mother's space of spaces. I pick up the talking stick and acknowledge the rite of passage with heart space, knowingness. I make this statement to all ancestors past, present and future. We, the generations of the now, bear the responsibility of acting in the now. With this knowledge, I tell the tales of ancestors past, present and future. I choose to be the eternal storyteller in service to the fifth world of peace. I honour the passing of the torch of blue to red, accepting my place in the natural world as a living manifestation of non-duality, non-separation dreaming. I am being, making an ancient future now real. I connect the eastern and western doorways of perception with my I am presence. I unify my knowingness expressions with the northern and southern doorways of perception. I activate my DNA super technology of communion with union, with Source incarnate now. I am now in eternal communion, oneness with the north, south, east, and western doorways of perception. I call upon all prayers I have ever created in this I am lifetime to become manifest with the ever-evolving will to pray and connect with our Earth Mother and our fifth world of peace. This is the day I make eternally sacred. In my hall of Akashic records, this is the day of eternal victory. I summon all victories of this I am lifetime and all other I am lifetimes this soul has been since the dawn of time on the blue road of no time. I construct my eternal hall of personal victories so all I am selves may experience the victories of life. Bless me as I walk this sacred soil. Bless me as I breathe your sacred air. Bless me as I warm myself with your sacred fire. Bless me with your sacred waters of life. Bless me as I learn to walk with personal power. And so it is. So that is the end of our session. Thanks for bearing with me through all of the hiccups. And it's been an absolute delight to have your presence here today. People from all over the planet. We've got a few questions I've just noted. Hillary's asked, please suggest ceremonial activities for those of us whose cycle have come to an end. From earlier when I was talking about menstruation. Look, you know, you can use your saliva to anoint yourself, okay? It's got your DNA in you, it's still, or your amrita if you're a woman, or your semen if you're a man, so your sacred sexual fluid. Shana has asked, hello, thank you, which book did you suggest? So that was Sacred Union Awakening to the Consciousness of Eden, which is on my website, themoonwoman.com, under resources. What is the astrologer's name again? Oh, Aquarius Papers is the name of his site. I'm just scrolling up to try and find his name for you. Wilkins, Robert Wilkins, is it? I think I've gone past it. Yeah. But if you look up Aquarius Papers, you will find his website. Robert Wilkinson, I'm sorry. Okay, Adrian has asked, will there be a transcript of this or a way to rewatch? Not a transcript, but there will be a recording. So I will post that, God willing, on my Facebook page and send it out to my subscribers. So yeah, that's all. And what was the soundtrack, please? Oh, that was my the track called Chakra Toning, and that was on the Chakra Workout digital album, which you can find under resources on my website, themoonwoman.com. All right, so it's been just over 2 hours, and I'd like to honor the time frame that we set. So I wish you the most sacred day. Let me stop sharing so I can see you. And yeah, just whatever you do today, just keep attuning to your heart and feeling into what am I feeling to do now, rather than coming from the head of, right, well, I should do this and I should do that. Everything I've given today is a suggestion, but feel into your heart. Your heart knows exactly what it is that you personally need to be doing today. So yeah, so feel free to share this what do you call it, recording once I get it up. I'll just have to you know, upload it. So blessings, and yeah, it's such a beautiful auspicious gateway. So a big thank you again to Lynn and Naima that helped me navigate all the tech issues earlier, and blessed be, especially those of you traversing the darkest night. We'll send our love and light to you from the south, where we're experiencing the lightest, longest day. All right, ciao for now, everybody. Blessings, and yeah, may we have a beautiful collective rebirth. All right, Satnam.